The Minnesota Vikings lose their second game of the season to the LA Rams in very controversial fashion, leading to many Vikings fans and the Vikings themselves having a lot to think about over the next coming weeks as what we're going to progress and what we're going to see for the rest of this season. We also have a very brutal injury update that happened in this game, but one that could hopefully lighten up the mood of a few Vikings fans as well. So we're going to be talking about all of that here in this video. Before we get into it though, we have 91% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all of your Minnesota Vikings news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join us here on the channel. We're covering everything Minnesota Vikings, and we want you here for every bit of that news. But without any further ado, we need to get into this game. As much as I hate to talk about this once again, as I've been thinking about it since the game ended, the controversial call is still fresh in my mind, and I'm sure, Griffin, you have the same opinion as me. This face mask that was the most blatant non-call I think I've ever seen in my life ruined the Vikings' chances at a game. And I'm not going to say the Vikings deserve to win this game by any means, but it completely took the wind out of their sails and gave them absolute zero chance to do that. So what do you think about this game, Griffin, as well as the obvious face mask call at the end of the game?
Well, I think like many Vikings fans, I'm starting to get officially worried because this is back-to-back games where we have not played very well. Offensively, we did okay, but there was still, in crunch time, we could not execute. We could not get it done. There was many missed opportunities. And then, of course, the final nail in the coffin was that blatant missed call. And again, it happened at a crucial time in the game. And would it have guaranteed Minnesota going to overtime? Not necessarily, but I would have at least given them a chance. A lot of people were saying on social media, oh, they weren't going to score anyways. That doesn't mean that if it's a game that's out of reach, they're not going to throw a flag, or because the team is basically going to win, they're not going to throw a flag. That's not how the NFL works. That's not how penalties work. You call it as you see it. You call it fair. And for them not to call it in that instance was a blatant missed call, and the excuses that they've come up with as a result of it are completely nonsense, especially when the photo evidence does show that the ref did see what happened very clearly in his eye line. So in my mind, it wasn't the deciding factor of how this game ended, but it was definitely the final nail in the coffin that just said, all right, your fate has been sealed. This is what you get for playing a very bad game defensively and just having a lot of offensive missed opportunities.
Yeah, the entire NFL community has joined the Viking side of this. I have not seen one person say that this call went the right way, and I have one screenshot here. I could have taken probably 100 if I had wanted to, but this one comes from Cole Musgrove here, a Seahawks reporter, keep in mind. This missed face mask call against the Vikings is one of the most egregious I've ever had the displeasure of witnessing. Absolute inexhaustible call, or inexcusable call, missed call. A win that gifted to the Rams. There are not enough words to describe how ill I am. We've seen this from Seahawks. We've also seen this from, even Packers and Detroit Lions fans. We've seen what Dan Campbell came out and said that he would be pissed if he was Kevin O'Connell. Not one person has agreed with this call. And, as we mentioned, this was not going to get the Vikings a win. It was not guaranteeing anything. But you have a guy named Justin Jefferson who can catch anything that's in his area. If Sam Darnold got the ball up, I don't care if there was 3 people on him. There was a chance that Justin Jefferson could have caught that ball. And that one whole play just completely ruined the chances. And the referee saying that he didn't see it, yeah, the original part was to his back, but the face mask grab spun Sam Darnold a complete 360. How do you not see that? I don't understand, but that is only one portion of this game as well, which we really can't change right now. We do have a few quotes as well I will pull up here before we actually get into the rest of this game and kind of breaking down what we saw. The first one here coming from not Kevin O'Connell, as you see on the bottom, but that is Sam Darnold saying, "It is what it is. We could have done a lot to not put ourselves in the situation we were in." And that is true. Once again, a very good statement from Sam Darnold, not kind of blaming the game on that, acknowledging that there were a few mistakes that needed to be cleaned up by this team that were ultimately not made. But, they have the feel for Sam Darnold in a season where we've seen him refresh a brand new quarterback, and having one of your options to be that highlight reel quarterback that you're going to see go down in history with an amazing game-winning drive. We ultimately see the face mask that ended that, and you got to feel for him in that situation. But the game was not going to be in the Vikings' hands, even if that was, as I mentioned. And the offense was definitely struggling this game as well. As you can see here, Sam Darnold, 18 for 25, 2 touchdowns. Not the best game from Sam Darnold, but absolutely not a bad one. There was a few plays where the ball wasn't really going towards anybody. It was a few mismatched kind of play calls there, but overall, it wasn't the worst game on the offensive side, but the defensive side of the ball was definitely something that we need to start worrying about just a little bit. I don't want to say too much. I believe this defense still has everything in the tank. They're still a very good defense, but when we're playing these veteran quarterbacks, I know, Griffin, you will go into this in a minute, the Vikings seem to struggle, and that is a kind of common factor that we've seen, but we still see a lot of these guys performing well. There was many plays that we should have had a few calls, too many penalties and whatnot. It was just not going in the Vikings' way. So, Griffin, how do you think the Vikings defense kind of influenced this game and swung it towards a loss rather than the Vikings defense we know that can go out and grab wins for the team?
Yeah, this was one of those cases where the defense cost us a lot in this game. And this is a season where the defense has bailed us out and given us a fighting chance in some games, like last week, where we were almost completely out of it and the defense got us back into it. This week was not the case. And like you did previously mention, we have struggled against veteran quarterbacks this season. We started this season, we had Daniel Jones, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. We took advantage of that. Brian Flores threw everything at them and they didn't know what to do with it. But now these past 3 games, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. These guys aren't rookies. These guys aren't kids. They're not in the middle of their careers. They're veterans. They have been around this league so long. They've seen everything you could possibly throw at them. So for Minnesota to come out and just throw every blitz that they can at them, leaving Kyron Williams open as if they didn't learn anything from Jahmyr Gibbs last week, and just letting Cooper Kupp find those zones, letting Nakua find those zones, or just calling man coverage at the worst possible time. It was very frustrating to watch, especially when every time we'd get into a third down, I was anticipating that the Rams were going to get the first rather than hoping the Vikings were going to force them to 3 and out. That was the fear that I had last week as well, and it hasn't gone away. This is something the Vikings definitely need to fix. I know a lot of people aren't exactly panicking because it is still early in the season. But again, this is something where the defense is going to need to have to be fixed. Flores needs to be a little bit more conservative. You have playmakers that can make plays. So trust in them, especially when you're going up against great offensive lines where you're not going to get a lot of pressure. You're not going to get those guys home as easy. So drop guys back in coverage. We've seen too how this front line, they need a little bit of work. They need to work on just getting to the quarterback. And I think that is why we're blitzing so much. We don't have faith in our front 7. We don't have faith in them to get home themselves. So we're bringing in these extra guys. And as a result, we're getting burned because someone is always going to be left open. And speaking of open in hands, like you mentioned before, we had Justin Jefferson. Why were we not utilizing him? Why on that final drive before the drop pass by Jalen Nailor, why did you run it with Aaron Jones twice? You have the best wide receiver of the game in the red zone and you don't throw it up to him or even give him a chance. That is something that Minnesota absolutely needs to just shake off for sure. We know we had a great game as far as yardage goes, but we've seen this in times where in crucial games, 18 just somehow disappears and it's not his fault. He wants the ball. We saw how frustrated he was and they need to just get him the ball. He's your playmaker. He's the one who's going to make those uncatchable balls in triple coverage. And when the game is on the line, you go to him, not to some guy who's just going to drop it over the middle when he's looking at the end zone when he should be looking at the ball.
Yeah, I don't want to say that the Vikings are in trouble just yet. I'm hoping that this is because of the bye week, or it's not the bye week, sorry, the early week coming in on Thursday after losing to the Detroit Lions in a very good game on Sunday. If we'd played the way we played against Detroit, this would have been a very big win, but it really just seemed this game like the Vikings were kind of overestimating what the Rams were going to bring. They weren't keeping it simple the way they needed to. The Rams aren't going to make any trick plays. They're not doing anything crazy. It's just a Matt Stafford ball game. The Vikings have known that for years and years. They know what Matt Stafford will do and what he can do. So it really does seem like they were overestimating what the Rams are bringing and not keeping it simple like they should have. And I really think that was a big nail in the coffin in this game, also being on the short week. So hopefully now that we're seeing, pretty much another small bye week here on a Thursday going in, getting this next game against the Colts on Sunday Night Football. Hopefully we have a big bounce back from that. The team acknowledges what's going on, but there still will be some challenges in that game, including one on the offensive line, which is a very, very brutal injury update that I hate, and I repeat, hate to bring to you guys. And Christian Darrisaw, we seen him go down there in the first, or right before the half, on a play where the Vikings were trying to get the ball down the field. Ultimately, we seen the play. We know that it was landing on the knee. I knew immediately, as soon as Christian Darrisaw didn't get up, what had happened. And this is what we have here from Adam Schefter. Today's test revealed that Vikings standout left tackle Christian Darrisaw is going to need season-ending surgery on his knee. Per sources, another loss on top of Thursday nights, and another just major blow to this. And making it even worse. We've seen that he was going to need surgery. He was going to be out. But with Ian Rappaport, once again, here's what he's saying. It's an ACL and MCL injury for Christian Darrisaw, who is now on the IR. The sprinkle of good news, I guess, is TJ Hockenson is taking his roster spot. But realistically, Christian Darrisaw is irreplaceable at that left tackle right now. We've seen the time that he's been able to give Sam Darnold in the pocket. And that's a big part of why Sam Darnold has been playing so well with this Vikings team. The time that he's had to settle down, relax, see who's open. Although as much as we haven't seen it in the past few games, Christian Darrisaw has just been absolutely holding that left side down and being a big part of why this Vikings team has been the success they've had so far. And this is just another brutal loss. So, Griffin, what do you feel about this? Do you think that the Vikings are going to make a move to kind of fill this in, or do you think we're going to see David Questenberry there for the rest of the season?
I think you absolutely have to go out and make a move now for an offensive lineman. There's a certain Kansas City Chiefs offensive lineman that we've talked about before that would fit in perfectly in Minnesota. I think they absolutely, now is the time you go out and get that, because Minnesota has done so much work trying to fix a really bad offensive line for a number of years. And Darrisaw has been the key piece to making sure that it is rebuilding and it is staying sturdy. We've seen the impact he's had this season. And when you lose a guy like this, if they don't go out and get anybody, I am very concerned that we won't even make the playoffs, because he is that big of a piece to this offense. He's that big of a piece to the run game, to the passing game. Everything on the offensive line seems to revolve around him and just being, he can block 2-3 guys at a time if he needs to create a lane for Aaron Jones or to make sure Sam Darnold has more time. So if we don't have a guy like that, our season is very much in jeopardy. Yes, we have the roster that we have, but you can't get the ball to your playmakers. You can't run the ball if you don't have a good offensive line. You need time, you need space. And if they don't have Darrisaw, they do not have either of those things. And I'm very concerned going forward. So there's still time before the trade deadline. Now is the time where Kwesi just says, all right, everyone, get out of my office. I just need to find a guy to replace this situation and make sure that it's not a season ender.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this is not a 2 to 3 week injury. This is going to be at least a year. So having the availability to go out and trade for one of these guys that are star tackles that could be on the block to fill in for Christian Darrisaw, you're going to need to make that happen. We can't rely on backups for a full year going into the rest of this season and the beginning of next. That just won't work out, so it really is time that we see Kwesi make a move here. We need our first of the season to be a left tackle now, unfortunately. Thinking that we had that filled, and especially after signing that 4-year extension, this definitely does suck for Christian Darrisaw, but hopefully he heals up well. Hopefully he's back early next season rather than kind of missing half of it, but only time will tell until we see that. So let me know what you guys think about the rest of this game. What do you think about the face mask? Of course, that's the big deal for this game, but Griffin, you got anything before we finish this one off?
I just hope Minnesota can just break the dust off of this game, move forward, go into a game against the Colts on prime time. Again, yes, back-to-back primetime games isn't always great. This game did get flexed up. Hopefully we do see that Minnesota bounces back, we get a big win, and we just beat a team that we absolutely should beat. There's no reason why the Colts should beat us. We should be dominating this game in every aspect of the word. But again, we have a lot of injuries. Hopefully TJ Hockenson is back so that we can get him going. If we get him back, I do like our chances. But again, if we don't go out and do something before November 5th, that's going to be the major scary storyline.
Yeah, the Vikings got some time to do some stuff for the rest of this week, going into week 9, and hopefully we see something made. TJ Hockenson activated today, seems to be good to go for week 9, so hopefully that is the case. But that's all we got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But we're signing out. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.